I'm sure there's some of you who have been here before multiple times, but for the rest of us, this is first. And all that I had an understanding of Prabhas was that Prabhas is the place where the Yadu Dynasty went, and from the nice BBT paintings of the stalks of reeds growing by the side of the sea that had become like iron because of the curse made by the Brahmanas to the Yadu Dynasty, etc., etc. It was just kind of something picture bookish in my mind, and really didn't understand so much about the glories of the place. But it makes a big difference, being in the place and hearing about the place. In other words, the transcendental dimension, long-standing even before the pastime that Krsna and his associates performed here. It's a holy place, out of many holy places in India. Prabhas is one of the holy places that Vidura visited. Some of you are not familiar with Vidura. So Vidura was one of the three brothers, Dhritarashtra, Pandu, and Vidura, who were in the line of succession of the royal family, next to become emperor of the world. Dhritarashtra, the elder brother, was born blind, so he couldn't become king. Pandu was the next born. He became king, but he died at an early age, just after his 5 sons were born. And so there was this tussle over who would become the next successor, although by laws of Manu, we spoke this morning about Manu, the giver of laws of mankind, there was no question. The eldest son of Pandu would become king. There's no question. But there was a question, because the cousins were adharmic. They didn't want to observe not just etiquette, it's dharma, laws of God given by Manu. They were violators of dharma. Just on that principle alone, what to speak of all the other things. And then the third brother, so Dhritarashtra, the blind king, Pandu, who became king, and then the third brother was Vidura. Without the detail, Vidura was born of the maidservant or Shudra assistant of one of the queens. And so he was accepted, on the one hand, part of the royal family, but on the other hand, not given the position of a king or a prince or the royal order because of the circumstance of who his mother was. Although amongst them he was most qualified. We hear from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 13, that Vidura was actually Yamaraj, one of the 12 Mahajans and great authorities, and by arrangement of providence, he was cursed to become a Shudra. He became Vidura. So even while he was in the royal assembly, living over there instead of over here with all the kings, he was the eyes, he was the vision, he was the respected, brilliant family member that understood and the truth and spoke the truth consistently, very strongly. And there's an event described just prior to the Kurukshetra battle, that Vidura spoke this truth so strongly, the eldest son of Dhritarashtra, Duryodhana, stood up in the assembly and insulted him. Called him bad names, you this and you that. And you should be driven out of the Hastinapur with nothing but your breath of life. You're an enemy. Because he was speaking the truth. Silently, Vidura didn't react and say, oh yeah, I'll show you. He didn't do that. He just stood up silently, walked from the assembly. Specifically, Mahabharata says he left his bow and arrow by the door, symbolically saying, thank you very much. Now I don't have to make the decision about taking sides in the battle. I'm out of here. And he left. He didn't even say goodbye to his wife or anything. He just left. And now, just previous to that, Vidura was so dear to Krishna. When Krishna came, prior to this event just described, Krishna came to Hastinapur on behalf of the Pandavas to make a peace arrangement. There's a scholar or two out there that say Krishna was a warmonger. But Krishna came with the peace message to the Kauravas, or the sons of Dhritarashtra, to say, you're violators of Dharma, but you know what? You can become emperor anyway. But the Pandavas, who are the rightful emperors, they're still Kshatriyas, so they'll be subservient to you, Duryodhana. You'll be the emperor of the world, and they'll pay tribute to you. Just give them 5 states to rule. No. Give them 5 cities to rule. No. Give them 5 villages, rule the whole world. They're subordinate to you. All their armies, all their strength, all their opulences in service to you. No. I cannot remain on the same planet with these 5 brothers. There must be war. Krishna spoke some strong words. Duryodhana left the assembly. He conspired with those that left with him to go and back in and kill Krishna right in the assembly. Krishna went on speaking truth with a signal. They all started converging on Krishna to kill Krishna. You can't kill Krishna. And Krishna exhibited right there in the midst of the royal assembly in the palace at Hastinapur, a partial manifestation, not the same fullness that Arjuna saw on the Kurukshetra battle. They all stepped back. Whoa. Krishna withdrew the form, and peacefully Krishna left. Even seeing the divinity of Krishna with their own eyes, they couldn't accept. The nature of demons. They see, but they cannot see. Because, as we discussed this morning, those influenced by the modes of nature, they can't see. They can't see anything. They can't see Shiva properly, they can't see Brahma properly, they can't see Vishnu properly, they can't see anything properly. Driven by the modes of nature. Their vision is covered. And as we heard this morning, the gift of Vishnu is to remove that covering. so that one can be enlightened, illumined, and go beyond the cycle of birth and death, achieve the spiritual position as eternal servants of the personality of Godhead in the spiritual realm. That's the gift of Vishnu, and through the medium of Vishnu Bhakti or Krishna Bhakti. There are some people that don't want that. Some people are not only don't want it, some people are vicious in not wanting it. Duryodhana was certainly one of them, and a few others that Krishna encountered. So when Duryodhana, when Vidura, when Krishna came to for that peace arrangement with the Kauravas, Hastinapur was in the control of Duryodhana. Indraprastha was in control. The other half of the kingdom was under the care of the Pandavas. But Krishna went to the Duryodhana part, Hastinapur. And as the Pandavas were cousins of Krishna, Duryodhana was cousins of Krishna too. So he made, Mahabharata describes elaborate arrangements, festive arrangements, without all the detail, to greet Krishna, just for Krishna's coming. And Duryodhana went out of the palace to the outer parts of the city and received Krishna with very kind and gracious words. My dear cousin, how wonderful of you to have come. Our lives are now made fortunate. Please come and take your meal at my home. Krishna said, no. A man will eat if he's hungry, and I'm not hungry. Or a man may eat simply out of love. But you, Duryodhana, have no love. He said, I love you, Krishna. You have no love. Demonstrated by your enmity towards the Pandavas, you have no love for the Pandavas, you have no love for me. I will not have a meal in your home. In this public assembly, Krishna is saying this. In fact, there's only one person here in Hastinapur that I will take my meal at the home of, and that's Vidura. So Krishna went to the home of Vidura. Vidura was very dear to Krishna. Krishna was very dear to Vidura. Queen Kunti was residing at the home of Vidura. Krishna spoke with Queen Kunti at this time. Vidura was very dear to Krishna. So when Vidura left the palace, having been insulted by your Duryodhana, he thought, there's no service for me here. I've tried and I've tried and I've tried. And I'm not successful. There's no service for me here, so why stay? Now I don't have to make this dharmic decision about fighting or not fighting. I'll just go. And Vidura considered, I'd really like to go to Krishna because they're so dear to one another. But I've been contaminated by this unholy association here in Hastinapur. So I need to purify myself first. So I'll go on pilgrimage. He went on a long pilgrimage. We're on a really short one. 11 days or something like that. He was gone for 32 years. Sometime, long pilgrimage. And part of the place because he went to holy places, one of the places, some of the reasons why it was considered to be a holy place. Krishna told the Yadu dynasty, well, here are some details. Krishna told the Yadu dynasty, Samba, my son, has insulted the Brahmanas. The Brahmanas gave a curse that the Yadu dynasty will be destroyed. To neutralize or diminish the effects of that curse, we should go to Prabhas. Because it's in Prabhas that Lord Chandra, the moon god, went to Prabhas. It's in the Bhagavatam. moon god went to Prabhas and underwent penances, according to the Bhagavatam, for 6 months. So following tradition, we should go to Prabhas, give in charity, do different pious activities and rituals, and we can neutralize the curse. So Prabhas has this reputation. Sins can be eradicated here. So I'm going to give you a little chronology. I'll disclose something to you. I spent more time sorting out this chronology than anything else in preparation for this whole yatra. It's really complicated. It's not just, the Yadu dynasty came here and left. Period. We're going to hear some details, but here's a little outline. Following the curse, the Yadu dynasty would be destroyed. The demigods came to visit Dwarka, headed by Lord Brahma. The demigods offered prayers to Krishna. Beautiful, long prayers. Similar to, not identical with, the prayers of the demigods when Krishna was within the womb of Devaki in the prison house of Kamsa. There's a whole chapter in Canto 10, Chapter 1. In Canto 11, Chapter 1, long set of prayers, the demigods coming to Dwarka, saying essentially, after their prayers, the purpose for which you came is now fulfilled. Thank you. You kept your word, and now we're safe and protected. Everything is nice again. So if you so desire, you may now return to the spiritual world. And please remove the Yadu dynasty, because after you're gone, in your presence, they're nice. But they're also invincible in their power, and over time, and they departed. Then, Krishna spoke to the Yadu dynasty. See all these bad omens. This is just a summary. I'll come back and we'll do the detail. It's very clear. The curse of the Brahmanas is already begun. So, as was done by Soma or Chandra, let us go to Prabhas and do pious activities for the benefit of everyone, the world and ourselves included. Uddhava saw the demigods and heard Krishna's words to the Yadu dynasty leaders. He understood what was going on. Not only the Yadu dynasty was going to be removed, but Krishna was going to end his pastimes. So Uddhava asked Krishna, please take me with you. Please don't leave me behind. And that's chapter 6 of Canto 11. Chapter 7 through 19. Krishna then speaks to Uddhava Gita in Dwarka, and amazingly, Maitreya also heard Uddhava Gita. At the end of Uddhava Gita, Krishna tells Uddhava, basically take sannyas and go to Badrikashram. There are sages of Narayan Rishi, and convey certain messages to them. I entered into this world to give my association to my devotees. That's one place I didn't get to go yet, but you can do on my behalf. There's some service for you. It will sustain your life after I'm gone. Very reluctantly, Uddhava circumambulates Krishna and starts heading for Badri. Krishna then goes back to the Yadu elders and says, hurry up. We have to go right now to Prabhas. And so they go by boat to the land. They get on their chariots in the land and come to Prabhas. They have their ceremonies conducted by the Brahmanas for the purpose mentioned. At the end, they have a big feast by Krishna's arrangement. The big feast included wine, rice that's been fermented, and then they started playing games, as Kshatriyas will do, some combat games, and the combat got intense, and they all killed each other. The number given of the Yadu clan that destroyed themselves here at Prabhas, 560 million. Which is around the number, I don't know offhand the number of the Kurukshetra battle, how many were destroyed. It's part of, so you can imagine there's lots of commentary on what's going on and why did Krishna do this in this way, and lots of commentary. So the Yadu dynasty is withdrawn. Now what's left is Krishna and Balaram. So over there, you'll see there's a little cave, kind of back, recessed a little bit. It is said that's where Balaram left. We'll hear how that happened. And then there are some that say, and some others say some other things, then this is also where Krishna left. But before Krishna left, another something happened. The other something happened was that Krishna was by the bank of the river Saraswati after Prabhas annihilation, because Uddhava, who was heading to the north country, heard, and he doubled back to see Krishna before Krishna left one more time. This is in Canto 3, chapters 1 through 3. And that's when Vidura was present. No, excuse me. Uddhava heard again from Krishna. Uddhava heard again from Krishna, and there's details that are discussed. Uddhava hearing from Krishna. We'll hear some of that as we go along. And then, again, Vidura started heading north. Uddhava headed north. Vidura came through. Then Krishna went to the place where he was seated underneath a peepal tree with his right foot over his left leg, or vice versa, and Jara, the hunter, thought it was a deer, shot the heel of Krishna with an arrow. And then Jara realized, whoops, it wasn't a deer, it was Krishna. And offered prayers, and Krishna forgave him, saying, you're actually my dear devotee, Bhrigu who kicked Vishnu in the chest. Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, didn't like that. Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, cursed Bhrigu, you should become a hunter. He became Jara, the hunter. Krishna said, this has all been part of my internal potency arrangements, don't worry. You just did your part. And here's a Vaikuntha plane, you're going back to Godhead. He went back to Godhead. Then, some versions say, somehow or another. Some versions don't say that Krishna left there. Some versions say he came here and Krishna left here. And perhaps it's so because Krishna witnessed, according to the Bhagavatam, Balaram's disappearance, which happened here, according to the Bhagavatam. So that's it, Krishna left. Here. And then after Krishna had left, Vidura is continuing with his pilgrimage because he had gone through Prabhas, and he met, I'm pointing towards Vrindavan, he met Uddhava on his way to the ashram of Narayana and Badrik ashram, and there they had some discussions, Uddhava and Vidura. So that's the outline of the chronology, and there's a lot of intricate details in between. Again, I spent more time sorting through just the chronology, but that's with other senior Vaishnavas. I've corroborated that chronology I just narrated, and we're going to go through some of it now and then some of it a bit later here. So something more about Somnath, and then we'll go back to Krishna's departure, the Yadu dynasty's departure and so forth. So this Somnath temple, historians say, the first time, it's been built and torn down and rebuilt and torn down and rebuilt and torn down many times, but it keeps reappearing. This latest version that we see now is 1947 or 1950, recent, this one. According to the historians, the first temple was built by Chandra himself, made of gold. Doesn't say what happened, but it was torn down or something happened, and Ravana, who was also a worshipper of Lord Shiva, came and built another one of silver. Something happened to that one, and Krishna, according to the historians, built one made of wood. Sometime later, that had a problem, and they made one of stone. A king, Bhimdev, built one made of stone. And that one was destroyed. The history is very specific about this one. A king of Ghazni. I don't know where that is. Ghazni. Huh? Yeah, but where? That's his name, Ghazni. Huh? Oh, the place's name is also Ghazni. He named it after himself. How nice. So he came here, this Muslim king named Ghazni from Ghazni, came here with a huge army, and it was a very opulent place at that time. And the soldiers climbed over the wall of the temple. Inside the temple, there removed 6.5 tons of gold and other valuables, jewels and silver and other valuables from the treasury of the temple. The gates of the temple that were very ornate and opulent, they took them back to Ghazni. Who knows what happened to those fellows, karmically. It was very, very opulent. Just to give some indication, the historians say there were 300 full-time barbers just shaving people's heads. The musicians were 200 musicians and 500 girls that would enact pastimes of butch. And then Aurangzeb had his turn. This was 1297, 1394, 1469, they got a 300-year break. In 1701, Aurangzeb did his program, knocked it down and built up again. So very resilient worshippers of Somnath, and a lot of harassment from other people. Other significant places here at Prabhas, is Bhrigu Tirtha or Parashuram Tirtha, different nomenclature for the same place. Lord Parashuram came here and honored Lord Shiva at the place where there's two rivers that go into the sea, the Haranya River and Saraswati River, at that time at least, flowed into the sea, and he established a tirtha where Lord Shiva is worshipped. We visited the place where the Pandavas did some worship, where they got water. There's some caves, similarly, nearby. Along the way, we passed, we'll see it when we go back, the Triveni Tirtha. That's the place where there's all those cars and, commercial things going on just outside. But it's where three rivers, Triveni, where three rivers enter into the sea. And about 4 kilometers from here is the place where the arrow was shot, Dwarka Tirtha. And we'll hear the details of that pastime. Jara, the hunter, hit Krishna's foot and died. Really? I mean, maybe it hurts, but you don't die from a wound in your foot. You might lose your foot, but you don't lose your life. It's a pastime. Not only it's a pastime of how the funeral of the material body of he who has no material body was performed at this place, specifically to bewilder the atheists. At Dwarka Tirtha, which the group will be going to later, you'll see a deity of Krishna reclining against a peepal tree. It's said to be that's the actual spot. And he's reclined against the tree and one foot up on his leg, and it's that foot that was up on his leg that was shot by the hunter. So that's an outline of the pastimes. And now we'll do a few other embellished points, and then we'll go into the pastime and take a break, and then resume. During this reign of Maharaj Yudhisthira of 32 years, the world prospered under the leadership of the pious emperor, because the citizens benefit from the piety of their leader, or vice versa. They share in the sins of their leader. Poor citizens of Kali Yuga that elect leaders that are impious. But who are you going to choose from? Unless there's qualified people. And Krishna began to consider. It's discussed in his response to the prayers of the demigods. Krishna is considering, the purpose for my appearance has been fulfilled. However, on earth, there's an invincible, literally invincible, very powerful military force called the Yadus. And these are great souls, but generations and generations and generations as Kali Yuga pass, what's going to happen? They won't have the same piety, but they'll have great strength. And it'll be a problem for people on earth. So to complete my pastimes, now that I've pritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam dharma sangstapanartaya, it's time for my departure. I need to remove the Yadu Dynasty members. As Krishna was considering like that, this curse took place, which we'll hear the details of. And then inauspicious signs were manifesting. Krishna noticed them. Krishna spoke to the Yadu dynasty, Krishna spoke to Uddhava Gita, and so forth. After all of this was to take place, Krishna was considered his very confidential, Krishna's inner feelings. Now, this is Leela, and within Leela, there's an ocean of rasa. Certainly within his eternal pastimes, or aprakat pastimes, it's an ocean of rasa also. But even his manifest pastimes, an ocean of rasa. He had this, in rasa, he had, to uphold dharma, and to uphold dharma, he had created Dwarka, which is an eternal place, but he created Dwarka for the Yadu dynasty, and there was the duty to protect the Yadu dynasty, and the duty to protect future persons from the might of the Yadu dynasty, and he had duty over here and the calling of his heart over there, which was even when the Siddha ashram, anchoring to be in his Leela with the Brajavasis. Now, that's also Leela because he's eternally associating with them in his aprakat Leela. But in his prakat Leela, or manifest pastimes, he's hankering more and more. It's very deep, but that's Krishna. We sometimes experience torn emotions between this and that. This is our relationship with Krishna. As with Krishna, so with us. We're just, distorted over here in the material world. But it exists in the source of everything, Krishna. Varieties of rasa, varieties of love. So the Yadu dynasty was removed, withdrawn, by the transcendental arrangement, and there's lots of discussion about that by our acharyas, why, and even right within the verses of the Bhagavatam, why did this happen the way that it happened? Everything all right? Okay, good. I hope you find what you're looking for. So, Balaram sat here by the sea, and from his mouth, Sheshanag came, because Sheshanag is an expansion of Balaram. A mystical movement or dance of Sheshanag took place, and then Sheshanag carried Balaram to his aprakat Leela position. Really fantastic, dramatic way to end his pastimes. Krishna saw that, then it's just Krishna left. So Krishna went to this place where Jara was, and he was hit by the arrow, and he left also. Just before Krishna left, seeing the arrow in Krishna's foot, Krishna's chariot driver, what's his name? Dwarka. Dwarka came, and he saw Krishna with an arrow in his foot. He had been searching and searching, where is Krishna, where is Krishna, where is Krishna? One of those. And then he saw Krishna with an arrow in his foot. He's Krishna's servant. He began to cry. And Krishna told him, you will not see me again, but you're part of my eternal associates. Please go back and tell those who did not come through Prabhas, those of my associates in the Yadu dynasty that are remaining in Dwarka, they should leave at once. In 5 or 6 days, the whole of Dwarka is going to be back again under the sea. Immediately, do this as a service for me. Go back. So he was able to sustain his life by having some service knowing he won't see his beloved Krishna again. So, why that our acharyas have summarized and then elaborated on. So there's many things that Krishna wanted to accomplish by the one thing. One of them, I'll just list quickly some of them. One of them was, Krishna said this to the demigods. Krishna said to the demigods, the Yadu Dynasty is all powerful, but because of my presence in Dwarka, they haven't gone anywhere. But if I leave first, they'll start to go all over the place, and then they'll control everything. So I think I need to take them, I need to remove them before I depart, because generations and generations all over the world, they'll be invincible. So that's not okay. And Jiva Goswami points out, many of them, Krishna and other involved in something going on between intimacy, that Jiva Goswami says otherwise. Even in Krishna's presence, there had become familiarity, what to speak of, over time, and so he wanted to bring it to a close. Jiva Goswami goes on to say that was illusory. Illusory in this sense, Krishna is always in Dwarka, his eternal associates are always in Dwarka, so it's a display of the illusory energy, not otherwise, to say, this Maushala Leela manifestations of Dwarka and there's a lot, pages and pages of commentary on this, because it's involving devotees, and this shocking thing takes place amongst the devotees. Like, how do you explain all that? Maharaj Parikshit asks, 11th canto, chapter 1, text 8, how could the Brahmanas cursed minds were always absorbed and thought of Krishna, like maybe the Brahmanas made an offense against the devotees? How could they do this? And Shukadeva Goswami's response is basically, Krishna arranged it because it was part of, in his words, his duty. So here's this, the duty aspect, even from Krishna's side. Just like he says in Bhagavad Gita, he does what he does, although he does nothing. He does what he does to set a standard, because if I don't set a standard, then the whole world will be brought to ruination. So I have to set the standard. And you, Arjuna, should also set the standard. And my dear devotees, we should also set the standard. Because if we don't set the standard, who's going to do it? We have to set standards. We have them. So still in Canto 11, Chapter 1, that there was an arrangement at the home of Vasudeva in Dwarka. He had a big home. He invited sages, demigods, great personalities from all over the place, kings and their entourage, and had a big yajna. Specific yajnas that are meant to bring elevation to society in general, reduce any reactions of unintentional mistakes made in the course of executing the duties of life. Grand event. And great rishis, the names are given, they came, they participated. Sridhar Swami comments something I found very interesting. He said, many people, if you ask, what is your duty? Well, many people will say, his commentary on this verse says, that it's also duty And far greater is the duty that brings, and at least in this case, the residents of Dwarka were choosing a certain set of rituals that had that purpose behind it. And then the distribution of charity to the brahmanas and to the citizens of Dwarka and so forth, as is appropriate. And then following, at the conclusion of that big event, the sages went to another holy place nearby called Pindaraka. Well, an offense was made by Samba, the elder son of Jambavati. He and some other boys went to Pindaraka, and they had Samba dressed up in a sari and put a lump of iron in his abdomen area, had him with his head covered looking the other way. The other boys touched the feet of the brahmanas and said respectfully, "This lady here is pregnant. Can you tell us what good fortune will come from the child that is born?" They were joking and ridiculing and making fun of the brahmanas. The brahmanas understood exactly what they were doing and who Samba was, and their reply was, the product of this person will bring destruction of the Yadu Dynasty. They didn't say, "We know it's an iron club inside." They just said it'll bring the destruction of the Yadu Dynasty. The boys were really scared. So they went right away to Ugrasena and told him what happened, what to do. Ugrasena, without consulting Krsna, that was another mistake, he made the following decision. And the decision was, take that iron club, grind it into powder. There's no club left. And I will personally throw the powder into the sea. And when they threw the powder into the sea, there was a little piece that wouldn't grind. So that little piece got thrown into the sea. A fish swallowed that little piece. The fish was caught by a fisherman. And the fisherman sold the fish to Jara the hunter. When he opened up the fish, he found this piece of iron. He used the piece of iron to make the tip of an arrow that shot the foot of Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam. And the Bhagavatam says, Shukadeva Goswami says, Krishna gladly sanctioned all these events. In other words, it's not karma, it's internal potency taking place. Then the demigods come. The iron club is cast into the sea. The iron filings wash up to the sea. They gather around the roots of some reeds, so they become iron-like, although they look like all the other reeds. And those later become weapons that the Yadu dynasty used in their fighting to kill each other. Meanwhile, next is the demigods come to visit Krishna in Dwarka. I don't know why they didn't come before then, but they came, headed by Brahma. And they said, for 125 years, you've come, you fulfilled your promise, desire you may reach. Without the Yadu dynasty going before me, they would have become so disturbed, they would destroy everything in their state of distress. So, my dear demigods, I need to remove them first. An expansion of me will stop and pay a visit in the heavenly realm. It's written in the Bhagavatam verse. The son of Vikuntha, not Vaikuntha, the son of Vaikuntha will pay a visit. See you guys later. The curse of the Brahmanas, even I'm the personality, the effect of that curse, but I'm going to advise the elders, so he went to the elders, and let us minimize the effect of that curse by going to Prabhas, just as Chandra did. Then in Madhvacharya, most of you know who is Madhvacharya. He is the head of the sampradaya in which we are situated, along with Brahma, then Madhva. So Madhvacharya wrote a commentary on the Bhagavata, Mahabharata. And in this connection, it's Madhvacharya saying that when Bhrigu kicked the chest of Vishnu, Lakshmi cursed him to take birth as a hunter. So the hunter that shot Krishna was Bhrigu. Krishna knew that, and Krishna excused Bhrigu and sent him back to Godhead. That information comes from Madhvacharya. He goes on, Madhvacharya goes on, similar to Jiva Goswami, saying, this is an illusory pastime. Meaning, how is it possible? In many levels, how is it body? Because his body isn't material. It's an illusory pastime. Again, Vidura hears this discussion with the demigods. Vidura approaches Krishna, please take me with you. They're enacting anything. So you've chosen not to do it. I can understand from your conversation with the demigods. I cannot tolerate giving up your lotus feet even for a fraction of a moment. I urge you to take me with you to your transcendental abode. Now, addressed as Vasu. And Vasu was a demigod position. He was requesting, let me be in Krishna's association. That wish was granted, and an expansion of that Vasu entered into the body of Uddhava. And when Uddhava was time for Uddhava to leave, that Vasu expansion went back to where Vasus live, in the heavenly region. And the eternal Uddhava entered into Krishna's eternal pastimes. In Dwarka, Krishna spoke Uddhava Gita. It's chapters 7 through 29. It's a big section of the Bhagavatam. Canto 11, chapters 7 through 29. It's big. And it's very deep, because Uddhava was a minister. He was well learned in scripture. Arjuna wasn't. He was a pure devotee. They're both pure devotees, very dear to Krishna. But Arjuna wasn't a big scholar. He's a big warrior. And so the messages in Bhagavad Gita are principle-based messages that the people in general can hear. And if guided properly, can understand. And so we're very enthusiastic to have people receive Bhagavad Gita and study Bhagavad Gita and understand Bhagavad Gita's message through disciplic succession. And that Bhagavad Gita is expanded in amazing detail in Uddhava Gita. It's the same message, just more elaborately and in detail and a little complex at times. Very profound, very deep, as is the message of Bhagavad Gita, very profound and very deep, in very simple language compared to the Uddhava Gita language of the Bhagavatam. Same message. And so the pastime took place in this area, in Prabhas. Like yesterday, I think.